What is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean 7904 if you want to get all technical on me. It's 6. Well, if you want to get all technical, it's 6:02 on the East Coast, 3:02 on the West Coast, 5:02 Tennessee time. Of course, that means it's time for the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It is called Grinderslive. Joining me today, Chris Kirkwood, otherwise known as Kirk D's, NBA specialist. Let's call it a Yahoo specific specialist, but of course you branch out for that. Chris, I don't want to be nosy. I mean, I'm not the nosy type, but I remember once we were at an RG party or something like that, and I happened to take a gander. Again, my eyes just kind of sort of went there. Your Yahoo page was up as far as like how much money you had in your account. I was impressed. I gotta say, I did not see that coming. Welcome to the show. I don't know why I'm just starting with that, but I just got a flashback. Again, I wasn't trying to see it, but it was super impressive. You know what you're talking about is the point I'm trying to make.
Sure. Thanks. Yeah, it's even big. It's even bigger now.
Is it?
But yeah, it is.
And is there any poker bucks that are being delegated in, delegated out? How's the poker world treating you?
I mean, that's over. We stopped once sports came back. We're still there. Our club is still live, but we don't really play much poker anymore.
Was it a good run?
Oh, it was a good run. Yeah. Right. It was a lot of variance involved. You know, so I started off way in a deep hole, and then came back strong and ended up very profitable. So that was good. That was fun.
Just less than a weekend. How's the NBA treating you so far?
Pretty good. It's been smooth sailing on Yahoo, and it has been semi-smooth sailing, minus yesterday on DraftKings, which is where I've been playing.
I made my cash lineup today on Yahoo in like 3 minutes. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, and probably everybody else has a very, very similar lineup. We'll talk about as to why, because all the body parts as far as who's in and who's out. All right, super, super important. We're going to set the table. Hey, if you guys are asking questions on YouTube, what's up, YouTube? We do appreciate you guys joining the show. A way to show appreciation back, wink, wink, is to, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Do you have an adjective of choice there, Kirkies, as far as how you like to touch or smash or
caress? I think you coined it caress at one point, and that's always stuck with me.
You want to be nice about it. Yeah, just caress the like button. We do appreciate that. Of course, if you guys are pre-members, we're just sort of the appetizer. Meansy and Kevin Roth, along with STL Cards, take you guys all up to lock. If any breaking news goes down there, they'll delegate how to parse through that. We do have most of the information out as far as I can tell. Of course, there's still some stuff in the air, and it is the NBA. And goofy things will happen at the last minute. We saw that yesterday, especially with back-to-backs, especially in the COVID season. So this is what I have right now. You let me know if I missed anything. But Atlanta, Clint Capella expected to make his Atlanta Hawk debut. They traded for him last year. He's expected to finally play 20 minutes they're talking about. So can't really play him, but slight hit on Collins, I suppose, because he's going to take some boards away from him. Maybe Collins shifts to the 4. Gallinari, last I saw, he is questionable with his foot. Blake Griffin is old. Derrick Rose is old. So those guys cannot play basketball this evening.
Whoa. Okay, good. Because Blake Griffin shined for me the other night on DraftKings. So I got a little upset when you said old. But yes, he is old. That is why he's out there. Correct.
He's like 32. He's like an old 32, 33 or whatever he is. It feels like he's been around for a while. He's changed. He can hit some threes. Like I think he got the right.
He certainly did the other night. Yeah.
So Blake's out. Rose is out. Jeff Green has an eye. Despite that, he's expected to play. He is available, of course, bearing the lead. Spencer Dinwiddie out for a while. Partial tear of his ACL, so he's going to be out for a good portion of the season. Kevin Durant, not old, but fragile. Kyrie Irving, he's fragile as well. Both those guys not playing basketball this evening. Carmelo Anthony is out for COVID reasons. Anthony Davis expected to play with his calf. LeBron James currently questionable with his ankle. Alex Caruso questionable with his hand. And, of course, Houston is still dealing with the COVID protocols. They're down to just 9 players. Boogie Cousins is a no-go. Gordon's a no-go. Wall's a no-go. Ben McLemore's a no-go. We don't do game by game. We started this last week. We're starting a new format. And let us know if you guys are watching this. Tell us what you want us to talk about. But again, if you're asking questions, our fabulous multitasking producer Devin, he's grabbing those questions from YouTube. He might even be grabbing them from Discord if you guys are watching us in Discord. What up, Discord? That's one of the perks if you guys join Rotogrinders. People throughout the day, they're tilting at 7:10. They're tilting at 7:30. They're tilting at 8 o'clock. They tilt every missed shot, and they talk about the slate as well too. That's good times for sure. You want to get yourself some RG Premium. How about that? Seamless segue. $10 off. $10 off your first month. Now you can buy a la carte. You can get just one sport if you just want basketball, or you can get all the sports minus NASCAR, I believe. There's 2 different combinations. You can get the NASCAR package as well with Stevie. But yeah, so we have the all the sports or just one sport. And you guys can go ahead and check out that link there in chat. $10 off your first month. So let's set the table here, Curtis. It's about Brook. I mean, it's a 5-game slate. There's a lot of value. Are you typing into the chat? What's going on? I am. What's happening?
Sorry. So I've got
you look distracted.
A couple of friends in the chat. So I was saying hi, hello to them.
All right. I didn't realize you had. Okay, you got some. Oh, there you go. I see you in the chat. Oh, there's Tambo. What's up, Tambo? All right. Oh, I guess he can't answer back. I don't know why I'm saying hello to him. He can't answer back. But all right, let's set the table as far as this slate. James Harden, Wood should go absolutely nuts. They took, I believe, this is shout out to Meansy as far as his article in Premium he was talking about. I think 44 of the 88 shots by Houston the other night were taken by one of James Harden or Wood. Wood is pricey. He's pricier than we've seen in the past. This is a guy not too long ago that was cut by New Orleans, which is just bizarre, but that did happen. Detroit, of course, didn't resign him. I wasn't certain if he wanted to resign there. They delegated some funds to Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee. Money well spent. So, yeah, I guess we start with Houston. They're down to 9 bodies, and they have 2 monsters as far as usage, especially Harden. There are ways to get away from that, from a core play build. I think that's where we start, correct?
Yeah, I think the slate comes down to two spots and then one key missing piece of news so far. So the slate is, obviously, we know all the guys with Houston are out. The same guys who are under quarantine still. So that makes some really obvious plays there to plug in. And then we've got the Derrick Rose, Blake Griffin, because that's a monster. That's like all the entire usage of the Detroit Piston team, as pathetic as they are. And then
they want to lose. And I understand why. They want to finish last, right? I assume they do.
I mean, at this point, I don't know. I don't think that's what they're saying to themselves at this point.
They're not saying it openly, but it's like they have an OKC here. It's a race to the bottom.
They probably can't help it. They probably understand their fate.
Yeah.
But anyways, and then the last key piece of news is I'm expecting LeBron James to be out, but he's questionable. So that really shakes things up, in whether Anthony Davis versus Jokic, because it's pretty much it's a two-star night with a bunch of value, and would love to have AD without LeBron.
It depends how you define the word star, though, right? Because in theory, I think you can get 3 stars. Like, you want to count Harden a star. If you want to count Wood a star, kind of a semi-star, and like a guy like Jamal Murray is kind of.
I'm not counting them. I meant studs. So I'm not counting them. There's like studs and then there's studs.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's kind of like me standing next to you.
Oh, I'm definitely below for sure. At least if we're going to go by the Yahoo balance, if we're going to use that as the marker.
And then there's guys like A Hits Pat who are out there in the industry, and they're like they're up there even higher, right? So there's levels to this game, is what I'm trying to say. But long story short is that the high price ones. I mean, Harden. It's really between Harden, Jokic, and AD. But and then LeVert obviously becomes one tonight. With the situation that's going down there. I mean, he's going to be a monster use. Battle monster usage.
It's ridiculous.
So, yeah.
We've seen him, like, for whatever reason, I don't really get it, but who am I to question Steve Nash? But Brooklyn has not been bracketing their guys. They've been playing Kyrie and Durant alongside each other, and they both come out, and then just LeVert goes nuts. But this is basically like that team last year. There's no Dinwiddie as well. And we saw this in the bubble. LeVert was awesome. He should play at least 30 minutes. Of course, he's going to jump in the starting lineup. I assume he is. I haven't seen an official word in that, but I can't imagine he wouldn't start. Just fun. He by the way, the ownership reflects this. And actually, we're going to bring on, like, in 5 minutes or so, Kirk Dees. This is a brand new format. This is all new to you, and it's new to the people out there that are watching probably as well. We're going to bring on somebody from our projections team every single show. Today, we're bringing on Keach, SBK, Jamino will jump on sometimes, just like 5 minutes or so, and kind of like tell us, take us behind the curtain, tell us what's going on. And LeVert right now, 70% ownership, Kirk Dees, on DK. That's the current projection. And understanding if you guys are pivoting away from football, you're pivoting away from baseball. Like, there's a reason why he's only 70% owned. If you could tell me if somebody in baseball is 70% owned, there's just no chance. Just don't play that guy. And like, Mike Trout, best player in the world, can get 0 points. He has 5 shots at it. But Levert's going to be on the court for 30 minutes and just accumulate fantasy points. He's just not priced for where he should be. The usage he's going to get. I pulled it up last year. I assume you use this as well, Curtis. The Rotogrinders, I can actually drop a link in chat for you guys too. I'm not sure if this is premium, to be honest, the court IQ. But Levert last year, you kick off Durant, you kick off Irving, of course. It's basically those last season. Kick off Dinwiddie. His usage last year was 36.9%. Is that good? Is that appealing to you? Do you like that?
I love that. Do you like that? What's that? That's from Entourage. Is that what? Remember?
I just summoned my inner Kirk Cousins. Said, "You like that? You like that?"
Wow, Dean, you're really going all over the place.
Wasn't that Kirk Cousins? I believe it was.
Yeah. I do love that. I like the core IQ. I like the on-off stuff. We can look back to last season, so we can take it with a grain of salt for this season because we can get general ideas, but we're not going to be able to replicate this both Kyrie and Kevin Durant out. I mean, he's playing with a bunch of low usage scrubs, now pretty much. Besides Joe Harris, who's a 3-point specialist and going to take his threes. So you're not going to expect, although, so who's going to start at point guard? We're still up in the air, but I'm expecting it's probably Shamet, but it'll be Point Levert is what I'm expecting.
Yeah. So it's interesting because I think there's a lot of, we also have cheapies in Detroit we'll talk about. And we see in the chat, they're asking us about some value plays. How do you make it work? And we'll talk about that soon enough. And we'll delve into, after we talk to SBK, we'll delve into as far as what we think what's going to happen with Brooklyn. But like TLC, we saw he was a guy who shined in the bubble last year, and they still have plenty of bodies. I think it's worth noting there's still plenty of guys. So I don't know how much Brooklyn you have to force. Like, I feel really, really good about Levert. I'm going to have a hard time not playing him in any lineup I play. I feel pretty good about Harris, especially on FanDuel, where it's kind of thin there as far as his position. And he's like $13 on Yahoo as well. I feel pretty good about Harris. And then it comes down to, like you mentioned, Shamet. Well, we'll dive into this in a second after we talk to SBK, but like Shamet is kind of sort of someone interesting. TLC, I think he's got the highest ceiling, but I'm not really sure how much minutes he's going to get. Jeff Green, he could play some 5 if they're playing some small ball. Well, that's definitely in the conversation here. I can see him being, getting 25 minutes or so or something like that. He's 3.5K on FanDuel if you want to punt a power forward. He's 3, is that DK? Yeah, 3.5 on both sides, actually. Tareen Prince is 3.1. Like, he's a guy that used to be in their rotation before they had really, really good players. He's kind of sort of so. I see Chioza in the chat. Like, I'm not playing Chioza. If you want to be frisky, maybe Tyler Johnson. But I don't love the value. So I might get pieces here and there, but it's pretty clear, right? Is that your thought as well? You play Levert. Harris is pretty good, and besides that, I don't know if you need anything else there, Curtis.
I don't know. I saw Raul Neto just go absolutely ham last night. So
put some respect in it. It's Hollow Neto. Put some respect in that.
Whatever.
All right.
Well,
breaking. Yeah, we got breaking news. We got SBK on the horn. He waits for nobody. So like, SBK, he's busy. Like, for real, he's absolutely busy because he's working on all the projections here at RG. And I'm assuming Devin. I did say he's a fabulous multitasking producer. Before he was throwing up the court IQ, I assume now he's gonna have the lineup HQ up for us. So I'm going to go with Keech. It sounds weird saying SBK, but I don't know you well enough to call you Keech, but I'm going to call you Keech. How about that?
Dean, you know me well enough to call me Keech, brother.
I don't know. I don't want to take any liberties. It's like the Ustedes and the 2 form for Spanish. I don't know how that works, but yeah, what's going on, dude? We're hard at work. It's a 5-gamer, but it's pretty tricky, is it not? As far as what's your overall thoughts? What do you like going back and forth on as far as the projections for tonight? Because Levert is popping, obviously, and there's a bunch of quote-unquote value plays out there that we don't really know what this Brooklyn rotation is going to do outside of a few pieces. How are you handling it?
Yeah, I think Brooklyn's obviously the biggest question right now. Detroit is another one that's pretty tricky and kind of some situations there that we haven't seen yet. On the Brooklyn side, obviously, Karis LeVert looks like a phenomenal play. I'm sure you guys have already touched on that quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think the one decision I think that may end up being pretty impactful is deciding between Taurean Prince and Jeff Green, kind of making the right choice there. I'm kind of leaning more toward Green in a GPP format, but I think that decision is going to kind of go a long way in determining success tonight. Joe Harris is one name that I've seen people talk about quite a bit, and I don't really think his role is going to change that much. But Levert is a phenomenal play. That was, as soon as I saw the Kyrie news, that was the one thing I kind of ran to do, was to bet Levert prop overs. I think TLC is a guy that could see some more run, but probably not terribly exciting from a DFS perspective. Tyler Johnson is another guy who could kind of be sneaky if they want to kind of throw him in the starting lineup and keep, other things kind of together. But getting them right is obviously going to go a long way. But Detroit's another one. I mean, with no Blake, no Derrick Rose, it's going to be a lot of weird things tonight with them. I think DeLon Wright's probably my favorite guy there. I think he'll end up handling the ball more than people probably expect. I'm not on the Killian Hayes train. He's kind of just been a disaster to this point, and I'm still not too sure that they kind of want to let him kind of lead the offense. At least Wright has some experience kind of handling the ball. So I think he's kind of my guy there. Also, obviously, have a considerable amount of interest in Josh Jackson. Also still on the Mason Plumlee train now with Joel Okafor out. We'll probably see some Isaiah Stewart behind Plumlee, but Stewart's not really an exciting DFS option at this point.
I missed the Okafor news. I guess it must have dropped a few minutes ago. That wasn't a big factor, but it is worth noting for sure. And Killian Hayes, rookie, 19-year-old. He's played some ball overseas, but he's been unspectacular so far. He hasn't got nearly as many minutes as you necessarily want, but in theory, they want him to be good, and Detroit's going nowhere. And Trae Young is an absolute disaster defensively. Worst defender last year, I think, outside of Isaiah Thomas. Maybe that was the year before, but and Trae Young's not getting any bigger. He's a terrible defender. So if there's a good get right spot, I feel like, or get decent enough to justify the asking price. And on FanDuel, he kind of makes things work for me a little bit more. I'm not happy about it, but I'm kind of holding my nose clicking on him because I love everything else. But it's been bad so far. And he's 19, like you said. Kirk Dees, you come in here a second. Well, who's your favorite to Detroit cheapie? Hayes, Wright, Jackson off the bench. Thoughts?
I think it's a fragile situation this early in the season. And so with most people saying that, I think that's general consensus around the industry is people are saying, oh, DeLon Wright, because it makes sense, right? Because he's got more experience, NBA experience, but the thing is that we've seen this situation with DeLon Wright before, and he's just not a high usage offensive player. Killian Hayes, at least just going by the couple games ago, at least he's pushing over 20% usage. Yes, he's been bad so far, but I would want to play the bounce back situation at lower ownership if that's going to be the case. I just think it's a really fragile situation, so I would kind of just lean the lower owned side or kind of go against the grain from general industry consensus right now.
Cheech, I don't want to keep it too long. Obviously, you're taking with the lineup HQ, getting things right as far as getting the minutes as perfect as possible. But how are you planning for? This is always the worst scenario, or the best scenario, depending on what risk reward, that kind of thing. But I think reading the tea leaves that LeBron doesn't play tonight and Davis does play tonight. And we saw it last night where PMR, player minutes remaining is valuable. If you ever have a coin toss, take the later player, buy yourself an extra half hour of news, buy yourself another hour of news. It's the latest game. We don't know what's going to happen to LeBron. I don't think he's going to play. We saw Naz Reid became a thing the last game of the night. We also saw it backfire where people are like, oh, so the no Embiid, I'm going to pivot to Dwight Howard. Look how sharp I am. And that just blew up in people's faces, process versus results. So talk to me about the plan or the thought, or how willing would you be to play a what if LeBron doesn't play? And all of a sudden now you shuffle onto some Davis. Kuzma's 4.2, I think 4.3, still really, really cheap on FanDuel. Your thoughts as far as that particular scenario and how likely you think it might be?
I think you're dead on. I do. I mean, obviously it's kind of an iffy situation right now, but I would lean toward LeBron sitting. Early in the year on a back-to-back, I don't see them pushing him. We kind of saw a similar situation with Embiid yesterday. They didn't announce anything. We kind of got that news super late. Same thing with Durant. They didn't announce until today that he wasn't going to play. So I think we'll probably see a similar situation with LeBron where he's ruled out somewhat close to game time, which obviously kind of impacts the pivoting options at that point. But I feel pretty confident. Kyle Kuzma is a guy I'm still making a point to play. Even on DraftKings where he's 6.1, I still kind of have some interest in him as a tournament target over there. Obviously, Anthony Davis is a very high upside tournament play, especially if we don't see LeBron. So yeah, I mean, I think taking some shots on some of those Lakers guys and kind of trying to get ahead of the news, especially on a short slate where things are kind of condensed. I think a lot of people will be kind of on the same guys. So I think that's an interesting way to kind of be a little bit different.
Yeah, like the worst thing that can happen, right, is you have Anthony Davis alongside LeBron James. Like he could still get there. It's still fine, right?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, we've seen Davis put on monster lines with LeBron in. I mean, I don't think he's a guy who you would kind of be super worried about if LeBron did play. I think Kyle Kuzma, on the other hand, would be a guy you wouldn't really be too thrilled about having. Correct. More so on DraftKings and FanDuel, it makes a little bit more sense. But I think, I mean, there's crazier things you can do on the slate than take a shot at like THT. Somebody like that, even Dennis Schroeder, who could have the ball in his hands a little bit more if we don't see LeBron, especially from ball handling perspective. So I think those guys are also kind of worth looks as GVP targets that people aren't really thinking about right now.
I'm gonna get you out of here. I'm gonna get you back to work. But it is just sort of wild now that since we're talking about it. 5-game slate, and we know the upside of Anthony Davis. He's currently projected to have 8% ownership on DK. Like that's just wild to me.
Right.
And that's really, really interesting. And I understand why, because people just want Harden, and that's that. And it's hard to get them both. You can make it work for sure. What is it yourself, Tuttle, Jamino? I'm not really sure who's working tonight, but is there a debate you guys have going on? What's bouncing back and forth? What are you guys weighing right now?
I mean, we always kind of try to prepare early in the day. When we see guys questionable, we kind of try to get an idea of where we'll go once that news breaks, kind of either way. And beyond the LeBron thing, I mean, there's really not too much that we're still waiting on. I think, Portland, we kind of know what the situation is with those guys. We got the Detroit news at this point.
I think Gallinari is questionable, unless I missed that. Is Gallinari still questionable for what it's worth?
He is. He's another one that could have an impact. There's just kind of so many things going on with the Hawks. We're going to get Capella back. He's probably going to be in the low to mid 20s in terms of minutes, which I think impacts John Collins in a negative way, even though he's kind of struggled to start as it is. But they just have so many bodies there now that I think outside of Trae Young, the production, I feel like on a night-to-night basis is going to be pretty spread out and somewhat hard to predict. So I don't even know if Gallo sits, if I'd be like kind of running to play anybody there.
Yeah.
But
Gallo there you go.
Ruled out.
Devin in our ear, Gallinari ruled out. I did see a note Capella expected about 20 minutes. Yeah. So it's his first game ever with Atlanta. There's no reason. He's been dealing with injuries. I can't imagine they push him too hard. Now he's expected to start, but they're saying 20 minutes. I don't know how hard that cap is, but I wouldn't expect it to creep over like 23, 24, 20 sounds about right to me. Let's get you out of here. You got to figure out Gallinari. Did you have a play? You have like a favorite play you want to hit us with, for the road?
Sorry, I lost sound. Hold on.
Curtis is still lurking in the background.
Do I have a favorite play? I'm kind of trying to look for someone that's. I feel like we've kind of touched on, trying to some points where we haven't really touched on yet. I mean, kind of a high-end play that nobody, I think, is going to be on. It's kind of an interesting spot against Houston, who should have a ton of trouble defending in the post. But Nikola Jokic, I don't think is going to really get much love at all. We do have him projected at 22% ownership on DraftKings, but especially if anybody kind of pivots more toward that Lakers side at all, depending on how injury news breaks there. Obviously, everybody on Harden, which may lead to some more Jokic ownership just from the game stack perspective. But I feel like he's I haven't heard a ton about him relative to kind of the other studs on the slate. So that might be kind of an interesting place to look.
All right. Good luck tonight. Respect your opinion. Get back to work, and let's get these minutes absolutely perfect tonight, Keach. We can't, if it says 36, I want my guy playing 36 minutes. If he plays 35, I'm going to write you an email.
That's what you should do, man. If we don't nail it on the dot, let me hear about it.
All right, dude. Good luck tonight. Crush it. Curtis, are you back? I know you were having some issues a few minutes ago. You still with me?
Yeah, I lost sound for a second. I don't know why, but
I see some questions being asked there in the YouTube chat. What up, YouTube? Like, subscribe. We do appreciate that. Show your love. It helps us keep the lights on. There you go. And caress the like button is the adjective of choice tonight. If you guys are asking questions, and I see some questions being asked, Devin is compiling them. Devin's going to jump in the show later. He's going to jump on last 10 minutes or so, give or take, depending on how our conversation goes. And he's going to be, he's going to be asking us some questions, Curtis. So be ready. And I'm going to ask you some questions now. They're talking about, I know you said you play Yahoo. I know you play DK. Are you playing FanDuel tonight by chance?
I am not, but I have it up.
Okay, so one of the interesting dilemmas on FanDuel, I saw somebody in there asking about it, so I figured it's definitely worth talking about. And it's just FanDuel kind of boxes you in on certain things, and that's why some people like to build more on DK, because you just kind of force into making choices. And now you want James Harden on this slate. Spoiler alert, he's going to be absolutely fabulous. But they mispriced Dylan Brooks for some goofy reason. He's 3.7K, which, it's just wrong. Like he has to score. He's very volatile. He thinks he's the best shooter on the court, which is good. You want that out of your player. He isn't. He's not super efficient, but if he's going to shoot a lot and he's 3.7K, he's a good play. The other part is that you have DeLon Wright, who's opened up a bunch of minutes there in Detroit with the absence of not just Blake, but more importantly, Rose. He's going to run a little point as well, too. 30, 31, 32 minutes against Atlanta. So the question is, how do you handle that? Like, you're supposed to play Harden. Now you can pivot off that and just go double cheap. And of course you can play SGA in the middle, which is another fabulous play. He's been spectacular so far this year. But if I ask you as far as the cheapies, do you prefer DeLon Wright or do you prefer Dylan Brooks?
Okay. So I think that DeLon Wright is going to be more higher owned now. Across the industry, he's projecting higher than Dylan Brooks.
No, not on FanDuel, because again, Brooks is 3.7. He's projected for 50% ownership.
I understand. I'm saying from a point projection.
Okay.
Fantasy point
about
projection.
The same. Right, a little bit ahead. Yeah, it's close, but right.
Yeah,
just
so it's
ahead.
A little bit higher, and the price gap is really small. So I'm thinking that I'm sure that they're tinkering with our RG ownership, but I'm thinking that DeLon Wright is going to shoot up from an ownership standpoint, and if that's the case, I mean, I prefer Dylan Brooks is just from a raw player standpoint, and Dylan Brooks has much more of an offensive game than DeLon Wright. However, the minutes are going to be there. DeLon should get a ton of minutes and has a lot of usage up for grabs. But man, I'm just not high on DeLon Wright in general. So I prefer Dylan
Atlanta's
Brooks.
A very poor defensive team, and again, Wright's going to run a little bit of point. He's going to play 30 minutes. I'm told, I'm not sure if you've heard the saying, minutes equal money. Yeah, not all minutes are created equal, but if you play 30 minutes, he should in theory get there. But you can only play so many because you're kind of boxed in as there's no multi-position eligibility. So I'll say this also, again, you're not supposed to not play James Harden, but there's really interesting pivots at shooting guard that make sense from a dollar, per asking price, fantasy point per asking price perspective. And there are some really good pivots in the 5-game slate. You can go to Anthony Davis and play, well, what if LeBron doesn't play? And Davis can still get there. You can get Jokic. You can play a Davis, Jokic, Murray, game stack if you want. Sure, have at it there. So again, I'm not advocating not playing Harden, but I'm for sure going to play in tournaments routes without Harden because I think there's other paths to get there. And then let's talk about SGA in the middle, who's been spectacular so far this year. And against Utah, and people still think Utah is this good defensive team. They're fine. They're middle of the road. I'm not afraid of them. And SGA, is the clear alpha on that team. It's not even close, not even a conversation. Your thoughts as far as SGA? You can talk about him, on Yahoo, DK, FanDuel in general. Are we in or are we out?
On SGA, I mean, we're definitely in on SGA. His price hasn't adjusted high enough yet. He saw just a 200 boost. I mean, this is a monster role change now. With he is the actual guy. I mean, he was the guy last year, but they had Chris Paul there too. Running that. So this team should, in theory, be playing a lot faster now. And he's the main guy. So I'm expecting his price to just keep going up and up. So just take advantage now while you can. Now there's going to be games where he's just bad, right? Where he's just off shooting because that's just the way he plays. But so look out for that. But as I'm definitely pro Shea.
How much do you care about guys that are not in great form out the gate after 2 games? Do we care about that so much? Jamal Murray has been kind of sputtering, but the price also reflects that. 7-1. I think he's 7-1 on both DK and on FanDuel, which, I mean, remember Bubble, Jamal Murray, he was insane. He was a 10K player and justifying that price and paying it off and then some. Of course, he's not going to play that many minutes, but I think he's still the same guy. I think there's some value in Murray. I don't know if he's necessarily a cash piece, more so probably on FanDuel than he is on DK. Your thoughts as far as Murray? We touched on Jokic. Are you prioritizing him? And the rest of the Nuggets, what do you have for me there? Because I assume people are going to want to game stack this to some degree, with the Houston side being pretty clear as far as where the pieces are.
Sure. First of all, 2-game sample is a complete overreaction with anyone.
Yeah.
Like we saw Wendell Carter Jr., who was just absolutely awful, shoot lights out yesterday, right? Like, and people were like, "Oh, I can't play that guy," and everyone swapped to Dwight Howard and felt great about it, right? Once that news came. When
can I vent for a second? Can I
Yeah.
I kept with Carter, and I had a phenomenal lineup, and I was well positioned. I had a decent shot at taking down the 100K on DK if that Laker game didn't completely blow out. But it was one of those nights where like things went well. It was really good, and like I felt like I left some money on the table. But I'm just gonna.
I had that
DFS. I
had that Christmas Day. I played the Thunderdome Christmas Day, which was a big one, and I was like one of the few who played Kyrie. I had a Celtics Nets guy. I had Kyrie, Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, and
that was the worst slate, wasn't it? That Christmas was
so
terrible.
like, I mean, everyone has something, right? Like all I needed was Paul Mill. I cashed, but like all I needed was Paul Millsap to put up 15 fantasy points.
Oh.
And I have a big night, but unfortunately.
Yeah, I needed Harold last night. He just didn't get there. This is Daily Fantasy Sports, Kirkies. We don't care about tomorrow. We don't care about yesterday. We care about tonight and tonight only. Let's stay on task as far as tonight. Hey, how about the Rockets? Is it just Wood? Is it just Harden? We saw Tate rise up. He was in the closing lineup. He was better than everybody else. I don't know how much we need it. If I'm going to squeeze and get a third player out of Houston, I mean, it's maybe even Tucker just to want to grab those minutes, but I don't think I'm playing anybody, to be honest. I don't think I'm playing anybody outside unless I'm doing some late swap goofiness if I have to catch up or something like that. But Houston, it's just Harden and Wood, right? If you want to be goofy, I guess maybe Tate, but not necessary.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's not out for GPPs. It's Nwaba, that Daniel House or David Nwaba are certainly have the potential to put up better games than they just did. House isn't the greatest, but we've seen him in spots like this where his shots on and he's gone off in the past. So for GPPs, those guys are in play. Tate is fine too. He had he got 37 minutes in the last game, but the one you're missing is the Hartenstein revenge.
Oh, come on. That's not happening, is it? I mean, we're not playing.
It's on the other side, but.
Hey, so you mentioned House, and he's kind of sort of someone interesting. I think more so on FanDuel and more so when you're putting him up against Josh Jackson and Joe Harris. I think Josh Jackson and Joe Harris are going to grab much more ownership for obvious reasons, but I also think there's a scenario where House beats them both. Is that possible?
Yeah, like I said, we've seen it in the past in like a very similar situation. When. With a lot of guys down and it's just Harden carrying the team with, House is going to, Harden is going to get these guys open looks. So, yeah, he's going to be a usage monster, but, he's also going to dish out a ton of like great looks for these guys. And so if they hit their shots, then they can certainly go off. So House is a guy that's good for GPPs tonight, I think.
How do we feel about the Plum Dog, the millionaire? Is there still some value in that price? He's $6K. On FanDuel, I believe he's like 5.7 on DK. Do we like it?
No, I mean we don't hate it, I guess is the best way to put it. But I mean, let's just dissect this like game in general, right? Like somebody's going to score, right? Like somebody has to score. Who's going to score, Dean? Tell me is it going to be Plumlee that's going to score? I mean, Capella should tighten up that. Capella's it's
a bad defense for Atlanta. He can only do so much, but yeah, he's a better defender than what they had.
Yeah, and I think that the Hawks are going to be a little bit better, with Capella only. But we're not getting full Capella minutes. Plus, he's probably not back to full game shape right now. So who knows what it'll look like? But he should shore up that defense a little bit and put less pressure on John Collins, who can bang too. And then, the problem is if Gallo's on the floor, but he won't be playing tonight. So,
Grant,
with the pace that the Hawks play at,
I think there's still value in Grant. There's still some value in Grant, I think, if you catch him on the right. And again, the Atlanta matchup is pretty positive as well too. Jackson, Hayes, if you want to, hold your nose, I think is possible. I think I like a little more in FanDuel.
Jackson's going to chuck. Jackson's the guy, like in my eyes. So Jackson's gonna chuck. Now you hope he doesn't get in foul trouble. He doesn't do something stupid, which he always does. But he's the guy. He's the guy who's gonna be out there chucking, and he's gonna have opportunity for massive amount of usage. Now Jeremy Grant got paid a ton of money, and they're gonna play him a boatload of minutes. I mean, he just saw 43 minutes the last game, and so he's gonna have worth. Yeah, and he's going to have a lot of opportunity. And he at least brings that high energy, right? And he's got the problem with him is he's always been on teams surrounded by high usage players. And, he's not in that situation tonight. So look for him to pick up a lot of the scoring.
Do want to mention a couple of guys we haven't talked about so much just yet, and it kind of links into our Prize Picks promo. Users get 100% off, 100% deposit bonus up to $100, and not just that, 2 months free RG combo premium sets, all the sports with the exception of NASCAR. 2 months free, 100% deposit match up to $100 on Prize Picks. All you gotta do is pick over or under, Kirkies, over, under. And I'll take mine. I'll just say this. Earlier in the day, I had Levert when I saw Dinwiddie was out and I saw Durant was out. I thought the number was wrong. I liked the over. And then, of course, everybody's out, and then he was just taken off the board. But I assume you could have got it earlier in the day. So this is just my moment to say a little PSA for the people. Whenever you see stud players that have massive usage out, if you're in the right state to play the right games, run to your sports book and smash the overs accordingly on certain players. Unfortunately, I'm in the wrong state, but hopefully you guys take advantage of that. That said, you picked a couple over-unders. What do you have for us?
I have Trae Young under. There's just a lot of bodies now, and the pace of this game should, Detroit should slow down the pace a lot. The Hawks will attempt to push it, but Detroit's going to slow down the pace as best that they can. Plus, there's potential blowout concerns. Maybe there's less minutes involved for Young tonight. Plus, there's Capella back. There's more, potential, dimes for him to work with guys that can throw down some lob passes with Collins and Capella there in the front court. So I'm taking the under. I've got him projected for a good decent amount of points lower. So there, I'm also taking the under on Donovan Mitchell, and then the over on James Harden.
We're going to have Devin, our producer, join us in just a few minutes. He's compiling the questions there on YouTube. We encourage, big grand scheme questions like game theory questions. You can ask this guy or that guy. Sure. Those are a little less, whatever. We'll talk about them and we'll entertain them. But I like sort of like good game theory questions regarding the slate. Put those in the chat, and Devin's going to join us in a few minutes. Who have we not talked about? It's like Damian Lillard, haven't mentioned him, and it's an interesting run back there. I'm going to call him too, like both those guys. Bobby Covington, who's man, he's a 3-and-D guy, and if he's not getting his stocks and he's not hitting his threes, it can get ugly pretty fast, but he is pretty cheap on FanDuel, and he kind of sort of makes things work. And again, I like the idea of making a lineup on FanDuel specifically, especially with like Davis and Kuzma or one or the other, under the assumption that LeBron may or may not be out. Well, the assumption he's out. We don't know just yet. LeBron's still currently questionable. Alex Caruso questionable too, for what it's worth. Not a lot, but just throwing it out there, recognizing he exists in this world. You have a thought as far as the Blazers?
Yeah, I mean, it's Dame or CJ usually. It's just the way it is. Nurk doesn't look so good to me at this point. I think he's still working his way back. He didn't look so great last year either. I mean, his price is very tempting on DraftKings at 6,800, especially. There's just. Especially with, if he's going to get a bunch of, I don't expect with the back-to-back Gasol to play many minutes. Gasol is terrible. He had a good night last night, but
he was great last night.
But at least he's got that girth, right? Like he cleans up the middle there. He's got the girth, so it's going to be much easier. It's going to be much more conducive to Nurkic's game for him to match up with Harrell. And
it's a good girth matchup if you think about it. Because Nurkic on the other side he's got some girth as well.
Correct. A lot of girth going down.
No fantasy points. You don't get any fantasy points for girth, for the record. It's FanDuel, DK, prize points. They don't give you any, but just it's an observational thing is all.
But but Nurk Harrell could, the Lakers are playing fast. Portland could play fast here in this situation with them, and this could actually be a decent spot the more that I think about it, but he just hasn't looked right. But I'm not going to hold that against him too hard. It's 6,800. If he matches up with a lot with Harrell, I like both of them in this game because I just don't see Gasol getting any minutes.
I see Devin compiling a bunch of questions in the chat, and we can get chatty as well too. So Devin, if you're ready, feel free to join the show. Are you here?
Yes, I am, Dean.
All right. We're here for the next 8-9 minutes or so. Of course, you're going to be producing the premium show up next with Andy Means, with Kevin Roth, with SDL Cards to take you all up the lock, and they'll tell you how to adjust if goofy things happen. And otherwise, Andy will basically kind of sort of somewhat build you like the cash game build, more or less. He'll guide you very, very helpfully if you guys want assistance in that. And of course, Devin, I don't know if can you talk and be on air at the same time and clicking the button as far as YouTube and drop that link as far as $10 off your first month at RG. Can you do that? Can you handle it?
I can actually time it up to myself talking right here. There we go. Look at that. Everybody in chat, you just got it.
Internet magic. It's absolutely incredible. Devin, you've been compiling some questions. Feel free to fire away. Go to Kirk D's first.
Yeah, we'll start. We got a good this guy versus this guy question. We'll start off with Aaron asks, rank top 3 players to correlate with Levert to run it back a Memphis stack.
All right. Do you feel like you have to have a Memphis stack? Is that something you want to do?
In NBA, I don't think you have to stack. Now it's a smaller slate here. I think stacking is more in play because, one of these games could certainly go off. But normally I don't really worry about stacking in NBA whatsoever. Maybe, more so against just I'll do rules of not playing both centers against each other, things like that.
Yeah.
But, obviously Morant, Ja is the guy.
Yeah. Morant, Brooks on FanDuel is much more appealing at 3.7K. You can play Jonas Valanciunas, but it's not necessarily popping. It's fine, but I don't need it. And I'm like you. You certainly can game stack, and I'm more likely to game stack on a smaller slate as opposed to a bigger slate. That's just how that works because you need less variance for a game stack to go off on a 1-game slate as opposed to if it's a 10 or 11 gamer.
Man, thank God I didn't say lightning round.
I'll answer the question. So this game should be really fast paced. Brooklyn's pushing the pace. They're under the old D'Antoni system, with Steve Nash now. And, I expect them to continue to push the pace. Memphis has horrendous defense and they're pushing the pace too. So this game could be a complete stack candidate. Kyle Anderson has looked really good in preseason, looked really good the other night. People have that. They're going to see that price tag go up to 5,100 now on DraftKings, and they just have this mental block with him, slow-mo, and he's just been so much bad for so many times. But, he doesn't have any injuries nagging this time. So I like being on him a little bit earlier than, and potentially him coming through. So he and Brooks and Ja would be the guys.
All right, we're taking 5 minutes.
I was going to say that's the only full-throated question we're going to answer. The rest.
Are you having fun, Devin? Are you having fun? I think you're flipping your according to the chat, you're having a good time with the video right now.
Well, I'm just sitting here, so I got to do something, guys.
Fire away. What else do you have for us?
All right, a friend of the show, Bill DeVault, wants to know Joe Harris and Ja Morant, or Plumlee, or Jamal Murray.
Do you want to handle that one, Kirk Dees?
Harris and Ja are the superior plays. I guess you could do ownership reasons and go the other side, but Harris and Ja for me.
Dean?
Yeah, I'll agree with that. It's close, but I'll agree with that. I love Ja tonight. And he's a fabulous run back. This isn't like breaking news, but if you're playing Ja with Levert and Harris, that's a fun way to start, and it's not too expensive, especially the Brooklyn side. What else do you have for us?
All right, so we're going to hit these quick, all right?
All right.
How many players from Detroit, Brooklyn can you play in the same lineup for a tournament?
I would say no. Well, you could play 2, possibly 3 on Brooklyn, I think. Eventually you got to spend your money. Eventually, I know, this guy gets 7x. Okay, but give me raw points too. Harden's still gonna smash. Let's say 3 on Brooklyn, and I wouldn't play more than 5. I don't think. What do you think?
I think 5's probably optimal. So it's just all pricing, right? And Levert is cheap. So you're getting a James Harden stud type with this kind of usage for Levert potentially tonight for that price. But then you throw in 2 value pieces, and you certainly can take 2 value pieces on the Pistons too.
Man,
Lightning
I
round.
was gonna say the slowest lightning strike.
I'm just gonna put this out. I'm not a lightning guy, so I apologize.
You seem a little uncomfortable too, Kirk. You're kind of shifting over in your camera here.
Well,
spin it around a little bit. Have some fun.
All right, Porter Jr., Barton, or Jeremy Grant from Scott?
Barton's last amongst those three for me. Porter Jr., you catch him on the right night, he's got the biggest ceiling. I'll say that. And Grant is probably the safest. But it's probably Porter if salary doesn't matter. What's your thoughts, Kirk?
Yeah, close between Grant and Porter Jr. That's it.
All right. Moneyfingers in chat is offering Mason Plumlee as a pivot for Wood. That name gives him a lot of clout, I got to imagine. Somebody with money fingers?
I mean, I respect the name, but
a little inconvenient, but
Plumlee's fine. His price is kind of sort of somewhat adjusted to where it basically should be, but it's a good matchup. Well, Capella's there for so many minutes, but I don't care. They paid him, and he's going to get his run. Always a good fantasy point minute player. Again, lightning round, terrible job. I prefer Wood over Plumlee. I'll probably have lineups with both.
Kirk?
Yeah, I mean, but Wood could get in foul trouble or something like that, so like an ownership play would be there. But Wood is much better than Plumlee.
All right, we'll get one or two more before we have to wrap. David wants to know, will Wright get blowout run? He's worried Detroit gets smoked, and Plumdog, Wright, and Grant sit during the blowout.
Yeah, Wright's not going to play in a blowout, I don't think. They have plenty of bodies. Like, Svi Michaela probably is your blowout guy. I'm not saying you should roster him, but like Svi will get some run or Dembuya will get some run. But again, those guys will get regular rotation minutes, but not enough as far as I can tell, unless you're, running 150. I'm not running 150, so I'm probably not getting those guys. Same deal with Bay. But I don't think Wright gets some blowout run. And again, lightning round. I'm sorry. I apologize. Ask the next question.
Kirk, any other thoughts?
I think Killian Hayes is just the superior play tonight, and even though he's been so bad, I think he's just safe. I think they'll run him out in the blowout. But that's it.
All right, last one, and then we got to get out of here in about a minute. SGA or Ja for DK Cash?
Oof. All right, Kirk Dees, you handle that one. Who do you prefer raw points?
SGA.
It's close, man.
It's Ja's better.
All right.
I mean, I'm really high on SGA though in general, so I would choose SGA, but I think there's certainly a higher ceiling with Ja.
All right, Dean, 30 seconds. Bring us home.
All right. Thanks for everybody asking us questions. We're going to do our best to make that lightning round a little bit more authentic and not actually like fake lightning. Do appreciate you guys watching. We can drop the links one more time in the chat as far as, $10 off your first month at RG. You get the link for prize picks as well. 2 months free of RG premium, $100 deposit match bonus as well. We want to thank Devin for not just producing, but making an appearance. Thank you guys for watching. Please, 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 on the way out, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. He was Kirk Dees. He was Devin. I was Dean. This was basketball. We're out of here. Holler. Stay tuned for Bucks Time.